What's up, guys? It's your boy OnlyRandz here, doing the final recap of Season 2 of Late Bloomer. I kind of missed last week's episodes, just got busy with life and stuff, but we're just going to break down the last 4 episodes. Episode 5, which was yoga, Episode 6, which was about the student, heartwarming episode, and then the season finale where Jus goes to meet Rebecca's parents, and then the ultimate culmination of it. We're going to break this into 4 parts, and then I'm going to give a final review of what I thought of the overall season. But before we get started, I do want to shout out my sponsors. Shout out Sing Beans, best coffee in the game, locally sourced, and a portion of all proceeds goes towards muscular dystrophy research. We got Casper the jeweler, hottest fucking jeweler. You want some custom pieces, go to him. You want some fly-by-night shit, go to somebody else. But Casper honestly does custom work. It's a little bit more expensive, but you just look at the guy's work and you look at the way he sets everything. You are paying for that extra quality, but he's a fucking gem as a jeweler and as a person. And then we got AI on systems. Implement artificial intelligence into your business in a variety of ways. You want accounting, you want callbacks, you want CRMs, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't even know all the functionality that it has, but he can implement that into any business that you guys have: trucking, cleaning, fucking trades, housing, real estate, anything like that. Hit him up. He can implement that out for you, and check it out. Now, obviously, spoilers are ahead. If you guys haven't seen the episodes, go hit Crave up right now. Go hit the IPTV. Exposure is extremely important for this sort of thing. We want to make sure that everybody gets a good insight to what it is, because we have to protect this show like it's ours, because it is. You know what I mean? People are out there saying that it's not a comedy. It's not exactly a comedy. It is serious. There's a lot of great elements that he kind of touched on. So let's get straight into it. So episode 5 kind of starts off with Jus and Rebecca going to yoga. It's like one of these corny yoga things where they do like puppy yoga. I didn't even think this was a real thing. I thought they were just kind of making it up, but evidently it is, because after I started watching this episode, I saw that there were ads popping up on my Instagram that had puppy yoga. I mean, maybe it'd be kind of cool. When I'm trying to do any push-ups or sit-ups, my dog always kind of jumps on me and doesn't really let me go about it. Maybe that's a playful thing. I don't really know. I can see that being a little bit annoying, but if you love dogs, I guess it would be really good. And later in the episode, it's actually because Rebecca's thinking about joining her friend that recommended this. But we'll see how this kind of plays out. Yoga also touches in on the dynamic of Sukhman Gill's character. His name is Jaspreet, which I actually just realized his name was Jaspreet. It's a play off Just Meat. I don't think that's done by accident. I think it's like the polished, better version of who he is, which, is the son that they wish they had in terms of, his success and his good-lookingness and his height and all that jazz. Manvi obviously doesn't really like this guy. I don't know how their relationship deteriorated so much. Were they ever that close? I'm not really sure, but he's moved into the basement now, and he's kind of set up the space for himself, and you can see that he's very, self-centered. He doesn't really think about her too much as he sets up her workout station in a little bit of a different area. And the dynamic's starting to change within the family, because Auntie is now taking his side a lot and telling Manvi about how she should act now that they're a married couple. And, she's getting a little bit frustrated by it because she doesn't really want to be part of the wedding in the first place, or the marriage in the first place. Following that, we can see Manvi is obviously not happy with the dynamic, but we'll see how that evolves over the course of the next few episodes here. Scene shifts over to where Chippy and her boyfriend Umair are kind of hanging out, and you can see the power dynamic. Like, Umair's a good-looking guy. He seems relatively successful. You can feel like the piece of shitness off him, but that only evolves in this episode. So basically, he's starting to they're becoming a closer relationship. Chippy is kind of, she's a good looking girl, but she is kind of punching above her weight class in terms of the superficial stuff. He's better looking, he dresses well, he's got more money, all that kind of stuff. So she's probably got a little bit less of a power dynamic. And now he's begun to buy her stuff as well. He buys her an iPad, and she's swooned by that sort of thing. Now, one of the things that happens in this episode is that Chippy shows him it's like a suggestive picture. I don't know if it's a nude. I think it's alluded that's a nude. And she shows him, and then he texts it to his own phone, keeping it. Now, as the episode's kind of evolve. I think that's going to be one of those things where he hits her with some revenge porn after the relationship, falls apart. That's what I'm kind of guessing here. And basically what's going to happen is that will come and bite her in the ass. Now, girls, if you ever send a nude to a guy, never send it over text. That's a fucking stupid idea, because then they have it. You don't know where it's going. You don't know how shit gets leaked like that. If you're gonna send him something, send it over Snap. At least you have that accountability that you'll know if he screenshotted it or not. And then you can be like, what the fuck are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. This kind of shit and that. I've received nudes and things like that. Don't send them over text. It's just not a good idea, because the guy on the other end might be a piece of shit and he might use that against you in the future. I think that's horrible stuff to do. Somebody sends you a nude, that's done in privacy. You gotta fucking maintain that, even if the relationship sours. So don't do that. Send it over Snap if you must. If not, just show the guy your tits in person. That's the best way to go. Episode transitions into Just Meet and Rebecca talking at the apartment. Rebecca showing him his tits. As I said, you're going to show someone your tits. Don't send the picture. Show them in person. Very nice move. She's cool. I like her a lot. Just Meet has gotten a role with some weird movie, and he's getting ready to fly out of there. And it seems like, they got a pretty good dynamic going on. Everything seems, happy and chipper. I had predicted that, there would be a major conflict. That comes a little bit later. But right now they seem to have a great relationship. It goes back to Manvi and the parents' dynamic. Uncle is really enjoying these birds that he has. They are grown up. They're in a cage, symbolizing Jus and Manvi, maybe. We'll see. And how he has them under his, not control, but under his care, and they're the people that need them. And, parents do kind of go through this. Now that my brother and I are adults, of course, we're less dependent on our parents. And then when I brought a dog home for my parents, my dad especially didn't like it right away, but as time went on, that's his favorite child now. He loves that dog the most. And because the dogs are always dependent, they're always happy to see you. They don't talk back. They're not really, pissing you off in any way, shape, or form, and they need you. And I think parents miss that when their kids become adults and start making their own decisions. So, of course he's going to have that bond to those dogs. Manvi is still unhappy with the situation. Auntie is telling her, you have to learn how to iron clothes. You have to learn how to do all this kind of stuff, because you're a woman now. You're a wife now. You're going to be a mother soon. This is what your life is going to be. Manvi is not happy about this. She's not, modern woman. Why would she be happy about doing, womanly duties in a home? What can I say, right? Scene over there transitions back to Rebecca and Jus. Jus is getting ready to leave for his flight. Rebecca, very caring woman, helps Jus pack, all this kind of stuff. She's doing right by him. And she reveals that she was going to join her friend in the yoga studio, and she's thinking about quitting dance, which has been her dream. Jus makes some snarky comment, which is not snarky, but he says oh, I didn't really realize you were the type of person that gave up. And I don't think he meant anything by it. This is just some of the stupid shit that kind of comes out of our mouths. We should learn when to shut the fuck up, but we don't. And this ultimately ensues in a little bit of a fight right before the flight. Scene transitions to Umair and Chippy going to some event where Umair wants her to look good, show her off as a piece of candy, arm candy. She's an object to him, not really anything else. So he gets her a dress that she doesn't really like, and he's like, oh, that looks great on you. It shows off your body. She wants to wear more of this leather jacket because that's who she is. She's a designer. It's kind of an ugly fucking leather jacket, but that's more fitting on her personality. And he's like, well, I'm paying for it. I should get to choose what you wear. She's like, I'll pay for it myself. And you can't afford it. Again, he's adjusting the power dynamic, all this kind of stuff. He's creating that manipulation type of thing. It's I'll buy this for you. You don't worry, I'll do it. And she's, getting a little upset with the situation. It's insulting, right? You don't really want all that kind of shit. And she's like, I'll just go home. And this guy, you don't have time. This guy's open collar suit, cocaine, fucking douchebag motherfucker. But this is how he carries himself. And this is what Chippy liked, which is kind of interesting considering she's bisexual. I would assume if you're bisexual, you kind of want guys that are a little bit more androgynous, who kind of toe the line a little bit more, more understanding, a little bit weaker. So it was an interesting thing that she went for this kind of guy, but again, shows what I know about that sort of thing, right? Scene ultimately cuts back to Jus and Rebecca having a discussion about how that whole dynamic's going to work. And, it's ultimately, it breaks down into they're having a bit of a clash. Jus has talked himself into a corner. He's talked himself into a hole. He's apologizing, and then he's letting his, feelings be known. Rebecca is upset. She breaks down for the first time in the series. And she's been very strong and overall been very chipper and had a good personality and very, very positive overall. And now she's like, I'm just exhausted of this. I don't know what the fuck to do. I hate being dependent on my parents. This whole thing fucking sucks. This, that, and the other, you don't get it. You're saying that yoga is exploited and I'm exploiting it, but you don't know how I feel. She starts to cry, and then Jus is, he's trying to comfort her at this point. They're still going to have a little bit of an argument. It's not over yet, but we cut back to Manvi and Jaspreet, who is Sukhman Gill's character, and she says that she wants to go on a bit of a trip. And Jaspreet says, no, I don't really want to go. He's like, you should go. And now Auntie drops the hammer on Manvi again, saying, oh, it's not going to look good if you're traveling without your husband. Further stuff, what will people say? Loki ki kenge, that more burying, that overbearing part. You think that when you get married, you're going to have more freedom, but now you're still living under the guise of the home rules, and so you're still getting a little cooked. Usually it's not the situation because you'd be going into the guy's house, but he says that the place wasn't ready yet, so they have a little bit of a different dynamic here where Auntie is still kind of hovering a little bit too much on her and not really letting her do her own thing. So the following scene cuts back to the fight, and Rebecca reveals something again, is that Jus, I didn't want to put more of what I was feeling onto you, being a great woman still, because I know you've been dealing with all this shit with your family. And then Jus has this vision of how it's dawning on him that he's always been kind of more self-centered and focused on himself and his career, and he hasn't really had time to help those around him. They have this funny scene where he's having this vision where they say his parents are there and all Neil's there, and Jus only cares about himself, and he's like, hey, no, I think about you guys, and it's such a joke to everyone. Yeah, the scene kind of ends off at that, and he has that vision, and then he's starting to realize that maybe he's been a little bit selfish at times. Scene kind of cuts off. Manvi has packed up. She's ready to go on vacation. She's sneaking out of the house. Pretty insane move, if you ask me, but she felt that she needed to do that. She needed to get away, and she needed that little bit of freedom, so she kicked it. Scene goes over here, and this is the big banger of this episode. Umair and Chippy are sitting in the back of some Uber XL or limo or something like that, and Chippy's a little upset. Umair did buy her the dress and the jacket, so she did all that. So more, I'm buying you shit. More manipulations. We don't really understand that yet, but Umair tries to make out with her. She's not really feeling it, but she's kind of getting comfortable in the dynamic too, because she almost, I wouldn't say she needs him, but she is seeing oh yeah, this guy does care. He does take care of me financially anyway, and he's a hot guy compared to her. So there's that aspect to it. So she brings him back in, and then the next scene, it's alluded that he's fingering her in the back of this limo. Can you imagine? Actually, I've had some wild times. I've never fingered a girl in the back of a fucking limo. Chippy is leaving this guy, Umair's hut's a little bit of chip. I don't understand. I think girls should have a little bit more class. Don't be fucking getting fingered in the back of an Uber XL. Can you imagine what the guy's saying at the front? The Daisy who's driving it? What is wrong with the women of today's generation? Are you getting fingered in the back of a fucking Uber? Because if you are, I think you need to reevaluate some life choices. A little bit of a makeout for sure, but that's a different level of PDA. You know what I mean? Unless you're a star and you're fucking each other in the back of a limo, you don't really get fingered in the back of an Uber XL. I think that's a little bit too far. She should have probably stopped that, but she let it happen. Finally, the episode finishes off with the conclusion of Jus and Rebecca talking, their understanding of one another. And we see big character development in Jus on this episode where he stops thinking about himself. He cancels that flight. He cancels that role that he was going to get wherever the hell he was going. And he's going to stay there and support Rebecca with the plan of how she's going to transition into getting this dance studio instead of the yoga studio, so she doesn't really have to give up on her dreams. Great episode overall. I think it would have been a great standalone episode, but because it was overshadowed this week by episode 6, which is just coming up right now, it doesn't stand as strong, but still a good episode, still a great filler episode. And we will see what happens in the rest of the ceiling, given the dynamics of what just occurred here. Episode 6, New Canadian. By far my favorite episode of the series, even. Because it's an episode that kind of hops outside of just being the main character, and it focuses on, this saying, I don't know what his name is. I don't know if I saw that there. But it focuses on the struggles that students are kind of, going through. Now, as a Canadian born, if you're born on the West here and you've ever even made some jokes or talked some shit about international students, this is a culturally important episode for you to watch. You have to watch this. There's so much relevance in the way that they're living, and we like to give grief to some of the students that are like causing a ruckus and be like, oh, like these guys just don't want to work hard, they don't want to fucking do anything. But this gives a true insight into like some of the things that they are dealing with. And the guy in here, he's like a really good, wholesome guy. He's like on the straight and narrow path, and then it shows his life through a day of all the fucking bullshit he has to deal with, all the struggles he's dealing with, money, living situations, relationship issues, all that sort of thing, and the temptations to stray off the right path and do some shit that is not going to be good for your future. As I mentioned, if you don't watch the rest of the series, if you are Canadian born here, you want to get an insight on what these guys actually go through, you've ever even made a few jokes, you have to fucking watch this episode. It's great insight for your overall understanding of, just having some empathy, having some sympathy, and, not being a complete cocksucker when you are judging these people for just being lazy, when you don't know the full picture. Episode starts off funny. Just wearing a bit of a different style of a bug. It's like the bigger style of bug. He's going to meet Rebecca at this nice place, and the hostess confuses him for a skip the dishes driver. Ha ha ha. Very common. And then the saying actually comes up, and he's the one that's there. And, he's looking off into the distance. He sees, like, a nice couple, which is Rebecca and Jus. And he's like, wow, they're having such a good time. That could be me one day with his girlfriend that he's on the phone with, who's in India. Very nice, wholesome girl. She's shy to even say that she loves him, all that kind of stuff. And he wants her to come over to Canada as well to live the student life. And it seems like they just have, like, a really good, relationship. There's piab there, there's love there, and they're just makes you feel good. Like, this is not like the piece of shit student that you think you see. This guy's just like, he's such a pure guy. It shows a transition of him hopping on the bicycle, doing his deliveries, and then him and two other gentlemen. One is played by Sukha in his acting debut, I think. I don't know, maybe he did another thing. But for the 5 minutes or so that Sukha's in here, he does a fucking amazing job about explaining the situations, about how tough it is for Skip the Dishes, and he got a 1-star review because he showed up to a delivery with like a cupcake and a little bit of icing got in, and people are such fucking pricks about that. At the end of the day, like, I've never really seen anybody else do these sort of jobs. Like, people complain all the time, oh yeah, immigrants are taking all our jobs. I never seen a white kid do this job, and I'm just gonna say that in like the blatant way. Like, yeah, I've never seen a white kid do this job pulling up to my house. It always does seem to be immigrants. So we need to show a little bit of compassion, because these are people that are willing to do the work, because there's no real other option. But we shouldn't really bitch and complain that, they're taking all our jobs and no one else really wants to do them. So that's a flip side of it. The other gentleman, is talking about how one guy ordered a $48 salad and a shake and then only left a $1 tip. And, again, it's just showing, like, the callousness of people and how you just treat these guys like fucking absolute shit. Their dream is not even having a car to do deliveries, but to have, like, an electric bike that they can, zip around the city and do all that kind of stuff, which is crazy. And we take those sort of things for granted, right? Yeah, it's just, it's not eye-opening, because you hear the stories of what the struggles are actually like, but to see it, like right in front of you, visualized, you see the story in front of you, it does give you some added perspective. So as I continue to mention, everyone should be watching this episode. One other thing that's highlighted here is the exploitation of the colleges on the students. Is that, there's often colleges that'll just get these guys in, make them pay exorbitant, 4x fees, and that degree doesn't really count for anything. And this guy's like, the main character saying in this episode, he's like, what the fuck was the point of even coming here if we're going to pay all this extra tuition and our education's not really anything? And so, because, like, well, we'll just transition to driving trucks in a humorous way. And this guy's like, well, fuck you. Like, that's not really what the overall goal should be. Like, we should take it serious and, actually get somewhere with our lives. And again, just goes to show, man. It just really goes to show. Scene kind of cuts over to the thing cooking for himself and the roommates. He's living in the basement that Jasmeet was living in. More tie-ins, more Easter eggs. And then he starts watching videos and stuff, and naturally, you go onto a platform like X, and anything that has to do with students who are enjoying themselves, it's all like, send them back home, fucking deport these guys are motherfuckers, blah, 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 blah. More bullshit. And I'd be lying to say that, like, guys speeding around at, like, Strawberry Hill or, like, fucking shit up and starting traps, like, those thoughts didn't go through my head. But at the same time, like, these guys were our parents 30, 40 years ago. It's not a matter of just working hard and getting through. Times are different. Situations are different. It's almost made it impossible for these guys to get ahead, and no one's even standing up for them, like, giving them a helping hand. So that's why I say it's so culturally important for us to realize what we're saying is mild annoyances, and, like, this, that, like, Apne have been like the pinnacle of fucking wholesomeness. Like, Canadian-born Apne are fucking terrible. Like, all the scraps that we start downtown. I'd say any fights that start downtown, at least 50% of them have to be by Apne. Like, seriously. And I've been part of that same culture, right? But yet we stand here on our fucking high horse and be like, oh no, the students are no good. These guys are fucking shit up. Like, we don't have the best reputation, amongst ourselves because of the ruckus we cause. And yet we want to put ourselves at a higher thing and like, look down and fucking be snooty towards students, which is, it's gross. We got to fucking rise above that. We're all kind of in this together. Tribalism needs to kind of disappear. Good guys are good guys. Bad guys are bad guys. And that's how we should kind of judge a man, based on the character of who he is, not you're part of this group, so fuck you. And then furthermore, we get to see the living conditions, how you got like 6-7 guys to a room. The Sang is talking to his girlfriend again, and she's like, oh, like, when you get down here, we'll go for a nice dinner. And she's like, oh, don't worry about it. And then this guy's kind of bigging it up, saying, like, don't worry, work's awesome. I got fucking paper. Like, we're comfy. Like, everything's good. And it zooms out to show, like, the 6-7 guys, like, just sleeping on the ground and, what the living conditions are. And, again, there's no sympathy there. He's looking at electric bikes. He's got, like, $37 to his bank account. So, like, he can't afford no bike, let alone anything else, right? So it's just... Get more perspective, more layers of what's kind of going on here. Scene kind of closes out to him looking for a better job and how difficult it is, like, because he has an accent that a lot of employers will just be shunning them away. Now, this is something that I've heard, is that HR representatives will look at resumes that kind of come in, and if they are names that sound ethnic, which is, Punjabi names, they will probably overlook them and overpass them. Now, part of the reason is because a lot of people do fluff up the resumes. They often don't have the credentials that they say they do. And they will judge you based on your accent if you even get a phone call back based on what your resume is, because they don't really want to deal with people who might not be here the following day. I know that some people do get into a job, and if they get into a better opportunity, they will transition out fast. That could be frustrating for employers. So they don't want to deal with all that kind of mess. But these are more struggles that these guys are dealing with. Their own friends are telling them, like, listen, like, you got to be working, be realistic, do the immigrant jobs, like duct cleaning, which was highlighted here. You're not going to get these jobs. These guys don't give a shit about you. You need to just be realistic on what your capabilities are, and this ain't it. So not only are you fucking arguing with employers and all the other things that are kind of weighing in against you, your own peers are saying, like, you're fucking wasting your time. He's riding around his bike in the next scene. He's hearing voices about the things that he deals with every day, about how people are like, why the fuck are you late? What are you doing? It's not that hard, your job, blah, blah, blah. Mounting pressures often. He goes into some bakery, and then he finds that his bike has been stolen. So he has to run on foot to... It just so happens to be Umair's club while he's having a fight with Chippy, while he's not really letting her go out. She's dressed a certain way. I don't even think she's dressed that bad, but he's like, oh, I can't protect you. You're going downtown. Like, I need to be around you. So he's really getting into this manipulation type of tact. And she's pretty fucking fed up with it. And in the midst of it, this guy's been running blocks and blocks and blocks. He's like 15 minutes late, and Umair just gives him grief. He's like, He's like, you guys fuck up our name in Canada. It's not that hard. What the fuck's wrong with you? Why can't you guys do anything? And it's just like, it's heartbreaking to deal with, right? And again, it's just, this is like the stuff that is in the back of people's heads. And when we kind of joke around about students and things like that, like, we're just not really being empathetic to them. He's saying, like, my bike got stolen, and he's being a prick. He's like, how the fuck's it my problem that your bike got stolen? You fucked me over. You're an idiot, and I'm going to leave you a bad review. Not knowing that having a bad review gets your account suspended, and it makes it more difficult for someone to make money doing deliveries. Following scene shows that they're looking on a Craigslist type of website for the bike, and they end up finding it. This guy's obviously upset. He's like, I'm going to go get the bike, but the friends say, oh, like, should we come with you? And this guy's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll be fine, this, that, which was a mistake. You know, anytime you're doing this sort of thing, you always want to have a couple of numbers just in case, you know, the guy's bigger than you, he's meaner than you. It says Toronto too, right? You're most likely going to run into a junkie or like some sketchy type of character who, like, if you're not a big guy or you're an intimidating guy, which this guy isn't, you know, then you could be taking advantage of that situation, and you could be in a bad spot because he does confront him about stealing his bike, but then he gets his ass beat, and you know, he gets punched. It's heartbreaking. No one really helps him. He's like screaming, and he's just having a really fucking bad day overall. He ends up going to the Gurdwara after that, and Sunny and Neil are there. They just got finished some Kant parts. They're doing some seva. Wholesome guys, you know. It's really nice of them to do. And this guy's looking for some food. There's not really much there. He's looking for some shaipanid. Sunny and Neil notice that he's gotten beaten up because he has marks on his face. They decide to do something nice for him. They take him to a shrimp taco truck. Following scene says, like, you know, he says, you know, when I see a Singh with a beautiful girl on a date, alluding to him seeing Jus and Rebecca at the beginning, he's like, that gives me hope. He's like, I don't really give a shit about all these struggles. Like, I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep going. There's no point in giving up, and that's the right mindset to have as any human being in life, right? A guy who's facing this much, you know, bullshit on a day-to-day basis, he's got such a great attitude. What business is it, or why the hell should anybody who's born here who doesn't have half those hurdles complain and bitch about life? You know, you got to keep trying. You got to stay positive. You got to fucking work hard, even if things are mounting, right? So always be aware of that. That's a great lesson to have. You know, these guys are eating shrimp tacos. He tasted them the first time. He's like, this is delicious. I never had them. He's like, I can't really afford the food that comes to me, so this has been a wonderful treat. Then Neil and Sunny offer to give him a ride home. And then Neil gets into the car, and then Sunny, now you kind of see a little bit of predatory behavior from Sunny, because so far, and even the rest of the show, he's a stand-up guy. But he understands, this is my interpretation of it anyway, he understands that this guy's in a bad spot, he's desperate, he needs money, and then he offers him a job to, you know, do some shiesty stuff. Maybe it's doing drops, maybe it's about doing some robberies, maybe it's something like that. He's like, you know, just stuff that's like, donumber.com. The Singh says he doesn't really want to get into any shady shit. You know, he doesn't really want to get deported or anything like that. And the Sonny's like, you know what, just think about it, take my card. He's not really pressuring him, but this is still kind of this vulture mentality that, you know, these guys are in a bad spot, and you're kind of, you know, putting them in like a different route, right? It's not great shit to do. I know a lot of students, you know, who had come here, and, you know, again, opportunities are scarce. You want paper, you want the nice cars, you don't want to be fucked around and pushed around, so you get involved in these type of bunpungi, right? So it's not the best option, but it is an option. And now the pressure of the situation comes to an overall at the end of it, when his girlfriend from India calls and says, like, the immigration guy fucking frauded me. He stole all my money. My parents fucking sold some land. They sold tractors. If they find out, they're going to kill me. My entire life is ruined. And then this guy, you know, being the good guy that he is, he's like, fuck, he's like, don't worry, we'll figure it out. Don't stress too much. And then the episode finishes with him looking at Sunny's card, alluding to the fact that he will have to be doing some shady shit now to make the money, to help his girlfriend, you know, get that money back and have her come over. And, you know, unfortunately, this is probably not going to be a happy ending for the guy. I don't think they don't even really need to show anything else that kind of happens to his life. But, you know, what's going to probably happen is he'll make some money for a little bit. He'll get busted because he's kind of like a naive guy, and he will ultimately be deported or into some sort of trouble as he gets busted doing this sort of thing, which it's heartbreaking, right? All the struggle that they can't come through, all the other bullshit, and now he's in a bad spot like that where he will ultimately have to, choose to do something shady. Overall, this episode was a 10 out of 10. As I mentioned, if you're not going to watch another episode of Late Bloomer, you should watch this episode just to get some insight into what these guys' lives are like. Episode 7, A Weekend at the Matias's. I hope I'm saying that right. So this is the episode where Jus goes over to the summer cottage of Rebecca's parents, and they, what do you call it? It's like a weekend for Thanksgiving type of thing. I guess it's not even a summer cottage then. Just their cottage, and they go over for Thanksgiving, and Rebecca's parents are obviously Christian, so it's a bit of a culture shock kind of thing, and even as they arrive to the cottage, they don't really acknowledge Jus right away. They just kind of run into the house. They're excited to see Rebecca, and then he's left to grab the stuff and then kind of walk into the house. So he's already feeling not the most welcome. Upon walking into the house, it's dark and it's dreary. It's not very welcoming. Just like the energy that he must be feeling, from the parents already. It's not very welcoming. I think it's foreshadowing. Then he also sees a portrait of a man with the bag above the fireplace, which is left open-ended. That does turn into something at the end of the episode. But it's interesting to see because they are Christian, but they have a sing with a bag over their fireplace. So let's see what that's about. One of the big things in this one is that he clocks in there, and now they kind of say what's up. Though Mother is like very warm and inviting, but she's a little bit tone deaf on certain things. She's like, well, do you drink? And they're very hi-fi. They're talking about like Bordeaux's and fucking what do you call, like I think it was a Pinot Gris that they had on ice, and they have these different types of wines, and Jus very desi style just says, yeah, he's like, well, I'll drink the red. And she's like, I'm Mindy, and this is my husband Richard, which is Rebecca's dad. The guy's like, oh, Mr. Matias. So he's already letting him know that, you refer to me as Mr. Matias, you're not going to refer to me as Richard. Which is, it's a subtle thing, but it will shape the rest of this relationship that's going to occur here. One of the other things in that scene that's pretty interesting is that Mr. Matias, he says, oh yeah, no, it's nice to always have company, even though it's different, alluding that they like the white boyfriend because he was also a Christian before, but that will build on it. The next scene kind of goes in, they're playing corn toss. There's a little bit of, Mrs. Matias, Mindy, she kind of views Jus as like, okay, he's handsome, he's a Bollywood guy. Like, she's kind of overplaying the, him being brown. It's like almost like he's like a shiny toy, and she's so like interested about him and all that kind of stuff. Whereas Mr. Matias is kind of, pushing on him where like it's like, fuck, like, I don't know if you're the right guy for my daughter. He's asking him some uncomfortable questions. Like, he's like, oh, like, do you even talk to your dad? Like, any person that's not good with their family can't be counted on to kind of start his own, that sort of thing. It's going to be uncomfortable throughout it. You can see the discomfort on Rebecca's face. So it's, there's just conflict. There's a little bit of a beef right away, which I guess there should be. It's normal. Any father would want, the person that's dating their daughter to be like stable and of sound and all that kind of stuff. And he's kind of like shitting on what he's doing for a living. And Jus doesn't really have a plan either, right? As creatives do. I don't know, for some reason in this episode, look, one of the things I didn't really understand was like Jus is having visions about Rebecca's ex-boyfriend. Now he must have been there and chopping wood and just doing white person things, I guess. But there's also a scene with him like drinking some water. Like, I don't really get why he's having the visions of him. But hey, carry on. But then there's a great scene that occurs after. Again, like, the lighting in this house is very dark. It's very unwelcoming. It's unsettling almost. And they're sitting down for Thanksgiving dinner. The mom is the mom, always concerned about how the food's going to come off and things like that. And, Richard is still standoffish with Jus. And they're like, okay, since you're here, you can do the grace. Jasmeet starts doing the ardas, completely, which probably wasn't appropriate, truthfully, because you could have just done, like, I think, considering this family's basically white, you probably could have had a shortened version, but he doesn't really know what to say in that situation. But again, the dad is, kind of a prick about it. He's like, oh, are you going to do the whole ardas? I think once he starts, you got to let him go with it. And he's like, by the time you finish, the food's going to be cold. Just do a little Satnam, Siri Wire Guru. And he says it kind of like that. These guys have shed that entire Sikhi aspect of it, even if they're Punjabi. And they say the word like Punjabis, Indians, whatever. The rest of the dinner is unfolding, and Rebecca is saying that she wants some financial support about this dance studio idea that she has. Now, again, they're a little bit kind of like, this doesn't really seem like the best idea, Rebecca. Like, why don't you just come work for me, and then you can maybe take what you've learned and then apply it to this very risky venture. Like, still kind of like offhandedly shitting on it. And then she's like, obviously taken aback a little bit. They start talking about students and how, they're not really working hard. Jasmeet obviously has an issue with that. And he's like, you guys need a little bit more empathy. And he's like, they keep eating at the gurdwaras. He's like, what are they supposed to do? Blah, 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 blah. And then Jasmeet's like, well, that's what it's there for, at least in Sikhi. He probably shouldn't have said at least in Sikhi because that's going to do something. And then this guy's like, well, in Christianity, we've been, helping out the communities for much longer than Sikhi was around, which is just creating this thing like, like I'm Sikh, you're Christian, where in these sort of conflicts, you shouldn't really be comparing religions. You should try to like find common ground about it. At least that's the way I would have handled it. But you can see that he's not really open to the idea of Sikhi and all that kind of jazz. One of the final things about this scene that's interesting is that they said that Rebecca should go do some traveling and go to India to do another missionary mission. So, like, when she was 18, she went to some of the villages in Punjab and converted people who may have been Sikh or Hindu or Muslim into Christianity, which, naturally is always going to be a little bit of an issue. It's kind of a little bit revealing that maybe Rebecca has those ulterior motives for Jus, and she thinks she can convert him over to Christ. And, like, again, this is one of the things that I think is an issue for people who are hardcore any religion. Namely in this one where it's Christianity, is that ultimately some Christians believe that if you don't believe in Christ, you are going to burn in hell if you believe in another religion. They pray for you that you eventually figure out to come over to the right side, which is Christianity. Whereas, religion should be a situation. It's like you believe what you want to believe it to the point where it's pure and you're doing good, you're not harming anyone, and that should be enough to get you into this quote-unquote heaven. Whereas some people are just a little bit more rigid in their beliefs. Hardcore Christians don't have that belief. Hardcore people who are from Islam don't have that belief. Even hardcore Sikhs don't really have that belief. They think that Sikhi is the only way, which, I think all sides have something to kind of share with one another, so we shouldn't be so rigid and closed off to other people's ideas. Dinner finally ends. It's a little bit uncomfortable. And then there's the next scene where they're talking about how they'll eventually come around. But then Mr. Matias invites Jus to a nightcap, a little drink in his little area, that book area. So the entire, scene or weekend kind of culminates to this basically thing where Mr. Matias is sitting down with him and... okay, I know. The entire weekend or the night kind of culminates and climaxes. The entire weekend and the night kind of culminates to where they're sitting around the fire. Mr. Matias has pulled out the good scotch, but I don't think it's because he thinks highly of Jasmeet. I think it's more kind of to show him that, like, yo, like, I'm better than you. He's like, I'm obviously more successful. Like, and he kind of explains this backstory where because they were low caste, they were treated poorly by other Sikhs who may have been of Jat caste or this, that, and the other. And he eventually turned his back on Sikhi and converted to Christianity when Mr. Matias' father was a young boy. And that's understandable too, because if you are treated shittily by the people within your own religion for, something like the caste system, that is, it is a challenge, you know what I mean? I can understand that. It's not the easiest thing. I'd be lying to say if, like, I've never, made fun of someone for, being of a separate caste. I mean, it kind of comes with the territory. As you get older, you stop being a fucking prick about these sort of things, but, that mindset's always kind of indoctrinated in the back of your head. It's stupid. I fully agree. Again, these are things that I'm trying to learn as I continue on, that tribalism needs to kind of disappear. My worst enemies are Jets. You know what I mean? Some of the shittiest people I know are fucking Jets. And some of my friends who are of a different class are, the best, most solid people ever. So, like, this is all stuff that we joke around pettily, but we do need to shed. Again, good people are good people, bad people are bad people. But essentially what Mr. Matias is saying is that he's like, I'm open if you convert to Christianity. So he's kind of giving Just Meat that ultimatum. And they have this discussion where he's not sure if Just Meat's going to be right if he's not willing to do that. Where Just Meat has this idea that Rebecca is more open to other ideas, and the dad's like, well, maybe you don't know her as well as you think, blah, blah, blah. He's like, she always comes around to what I'm saying at the end. And, Just Meat hasn't really seen that before, but he's about to find out. And they have that discussion. He finishes the bag pretty quickly. He leaves Just Meat to do what he needs to do. Just Meat obviously is not a Scotch guy. He's grimacing as he's drinking this stuff, and the other guy's just loving it. And he takes just subtle jabs. He's like, you don't mix this with Coke. And the way he says Coke is obviously such a shot at Opry, because we do like whiskey Cokes and water, even ice. He's like, that'll dilute the drink, but that's just his whole thing of diluting Christianity. He wouldn't want a half Christian, half sick. That's diluting the purity of, like, the highest quality of fucking Scotch. It's just subtle shots. He's very passive aggressive and patronizing. So ultimately the episode ends up with it's a jarring conversation. It's not a great conversation. Mr. Matias kind of leaves it as, I just don't want you guys to waste time. You guys still got your lives ahead of you, basically alluding, like, I don't approve of this relationship that you guys are on. You guys are fucking wasting time. The faster you get over this, the better, unless you're willing to come around to my thought process. And he goes up, and he's a little bit shook up, and she's like, you know what, maybe my parents are right, maybe I will work, alluding to the fact of what Mr. Matias said, where he was like, you know what, he's like, she eventually comes around, she eventually listens to reason, and she eventually knows that I'm always right, which is jarring. Now, little Easter egg there. You know how much I noticed about the pogs and all that kind of stuff. Just goes to sleep with the pog on. Very interesting. Now, is that an illusion of the lack of comfort he's feeling in the house? We'll find out. Finally, we got episode 8 for the birds. This is the season finale. Now, this one I had mixed feelings about after I watched it. I'll kind of walk you through everything that kind of happened. Josh and I and Chaps and Mole and the team over there, we're all boys now. But I don't think they would appreciate me having a lack of integrity, of not telling everyone what I actually felt. I haven't gotten this far by sucking dick to anyone, even though I know some things I'm not the best quality. So I was a little bit, I had some mixed feelings about this episode, especially the ending. But we're going to get into it. I'm sure anyone who watches my content would appreciate me being honest. And aside from the politics in the game, the people who watch my content and support, the nameless folk that watch that and support, I value their opinion more than, the politics and the industry folk that I have to shake hands with, even though I got mad love for them. So right away, now this is, you can assume that this is the same night because the clothes have been changed, I guess. I don't know if this is the next morning, but the opening shot, there's distance between Rebecca and Jus. There's no semblance of cuddling or anything like that. So it's just kind of showing that there's a little bit of a rift now, a little bit of distance, a little bit of space in between them. And Jus is wearing a bartka on the next day. Now, you could see in, like, episode, I think it was 2, where Jus was, he had the bad hairline out. The fucking hairline was terrible. He looked hideous. But he was that comfortable with her in her space. He's not comfortable with her in this space. You know what I mean? So that's it's a very interesting thing. Like, I just went on a weekend with the girl, and like I don't have that level of comfort with her. I kept the bartka on, but this is one of those things. It's those subtle tells, like the comfort levels of the relationship are changing. And even as she turns around, this guy just turns the other way, but he is awake. He is a little bit shook up. He's not actually asleep, but you see there's a rift. Next scene kind of closes in where the robot that Jaspreet had set up for Auntie's tiffin business is kind of malfunctioning. It's not doing what it should do, and they have to refresh it, blah, blah, blah. So she decides that she's going to go do a delivery on her own. But at night, you know how moms are and driving at night, they kind of suck. She's not the, best driver, this and that. She's panicking. She gets a flat tire. She tries to call Jaspreet. He's not the most, you can't really count on him. He's doing his own things. Again, it just shows that he's a little bit more self-centered and, he's just kind of a fucking asshole and things like that. And Uncle is the one who ultimately has to come down and help repair the tire. But before that, they have an awesome cameo by that Sick to My Stomach girl. It's like, you a sick to my stomach, fam. One thing they did fuck up on is that she says the line, but the line is iconic. It's like, yo, if your son left you in the hood, you a sick to my stomach, fam. She doesn't say that. She's like, she says, if your son left you in the hood, he makes me stick to my stomach. Like, you gotta leave the original line. I don't know why you would change that fucking line. That's the iconic part of it, right? I mean, if you're from Toronto and you saw that clip, it's there, but I don't know why you would not have that line. That kind of pissed me off. I swear to God, that pissed me off. Because it's an iconic line at this point, right? She's kind of trashy looking, but she's pretty hot. I'd give her a go. As I mentioned, Uncle ends up showing up. He fixes the tire. It's a heartfelt moment. They give each other a hug. Probably the first hug they've given each other in fucking years. Saying, I'm still here with you no matter what. Everything else can fucking dissolve. But, you and I are still a team, right? They have this conversation in the car where, she's like, you know what? Manvi's not really happy with Sukhman. They kind of rip on him. They're like, that guy's fucking useless. And even they're seeing that all that glitters is not gold. That it wasn't really exactly what they thought. So they have to kind of overcome what they're going to do here. And they're like, you know what? Manvi's pretty choked about this whole situation. We don't want to lose another child just like we lost Jus. And we need to let her know that she has that option. Which is, if there's growth in this entire show. So it's not just Meath growing, but every character has growth in the show. Some are growing the right way, some are growing different ways, but there is just overall leveling up by the main characters. So the following scene kind of shows up where Manvi gets back from vacation. She's got cornrows in her hair. And she sees the parents. It's a pretty funny scene where they're just kind of staring back at one another. They're looking at her hair. They're looking at the accessories that she's got. I think it's a pretty funny scene where Sukhman's character comes in, breaks the tension, and he decides to go out because he's doing more real estate stuff. There's a nice heartwarming scene where the mom finally can speak to Manvi and say, listen, I know that you're not happy. You do what you want to do at this point in your life. Don't worry about your reputation. Who gives a fuck? We're here to support you. She breaks down, starts crying, and then, it's a great moment. Uncle also does something that's great and symbolic, is that he opens the cage door for the birds, opens a window, and now he is letting them go. He's not being that overbearing father anymore to Jasmeet and Manvi. He's let them go. He's let them spread their wings. He's letting them kind of live their own lives. And I think that's going to be one of the catalysts for the repair of him and Jasmeet's relationship as the series kind of continues to fold. Season 3 better be coming. The scene goes forward. It's showing just a time lapse of Rebecca and Jus in their apartment. Well, in her apartment. And it's showing that they're not really talking throughout the day. They're working. They're distant. There's a tension in the air. She has to go out and eat, and she's like, "Fine, yeah, we can go out and eat and just kind of figure out our plans." Chippy shows up to Manvi guys' house after, and she explains that she won't be getting married or being married to Sukhman much longer. This scene ultimately culminates to Chippy realizing, and as I fucking called it, Umair has leaked out those pictures. Sonny calls Chippy. He's like, oh, what the fuck? You sent this picture out. That guy leaked them. And she's obviously fucking pissed off about it. It seems like they've had a bit of a breakup since then. But shit thing to do. I mean, people who do revenge porn need a serious fucking beating, which he does get in the end. And probably worse. There should be some real legal repercussions for that sort of thing. As I mentioned, girls, don't fucking do that. Don't send it over text. Scene kind of transitions over to Chippy confronting Umair, and he just kind of rips her up. He's like, "You're just a fat run-through bitch. You want me still." He starts choking her, but kind of almost in a seductive way. I don't know if he was actually choking her, but Sonny comes in, breaks it up, bottles this guy, beats the fuck out of him. And Chippy kind of took back her power for a little bit because she trashed his place, but then he was able to kind of have that power over her again, just with those manipulations and just being a piece of shit. So if anyone deserved a fucking ass beating in the show, it was Umair's character. That guy's a piece of garbage, and he got what was coming to him. One thing cool that Chippy does, I guess, is she takes back her power, because I guess it wasn't a nude. It was maybe just a very seductive type of see-through sari or something. She posted it on Instagram herself. She kind of takes back a bit of her power. She's like, if anyone's gonna post it, it's gonna be me. And she's shown the world. She took it back. I don't think she should have ever taken that picture. I don't think she should have ever sent it. Well, she didn't send it. He sent it to himself, being a piece of shit. But yeah, she should have probably never taken that picture. I don't get it. I don't think you're really curing cancer with some seductive pictures or anything like that. I don't think there's nothing empowering about it. My opinion. I don't know. So the following scene goes to Rebecca and Jus, who have probably just finished their lunch, and now they're talking about things, and he's talking about how uncomfortable he is with how Mr. Matias was talking all this crap about international students, and this, that, and the other. And then also the main thing where, how many people that Rebecca had converted in Punjab to Christianity. She's like, how the fuck do you think that makes me feel? Then ultimately there's the scene where he tells him, like, okay, your dad basically told me to convert or fuck off. He's like, well, you don't really feel like that, do you? And it's revealed that Rebecca does kind of want him to convert. She doesn't outright say it right now because Jus is hilariously interrupted by fans who want to take pictures with them. And they kind of get into it. A little bit of a corny scene, but not bad. The climax of their relationship is kind of coming here, where Rebecca is essentially saying that, it's important to me that you learn my faith, and you don't even really follow your own religion either. Now, to set the record straight, it's simply like this. Even those Sikhs like myself, or just me in this show, or numerous other Sikhs that are like all across the Vancouver, Surrey, Canada, anywhere, right, that don't really follow Sikhi to a T, it doesn't mean that we would shed our religion for a bitch. Realistically. I mean, I think if you're going to shed your religion for a bitch, you're the weakest character human being that you have. We're still on this path of Sikhi, and we might not be able to follow everything, but you can follow the three basic tenets, which is Kirt Karo, Naam Japo, Devan Chako, which is fucking work hard, share, and do community service, and always keep the name of God in your mouth. We can at least follow those three basic tenets, right? She's actually being pretty rigid in this situation. Well, you're not even really about the religion. What would you do about your kids if they wanted to keep their hair or keep turbans and things like that? Which she's not willing to shed the Christian faith at all, which is kind of strange. I mean, if you are with a guy who is a Sikh, I don't think you should go into it thinking that I'm going to be able to convert this guy. I think that's kind of fucking stupid. You have to be accepting that person will kind of be on, their path. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a weird one. I don't know if this is meant to make Christians look like fanatics. I don't really understand that. But, she's definitely one of the ones who think that if you don't convert to Christianity, you are going to hell and you will burn in hell for eternity. So it's a little bit, sad to see, because up until this point, she's been great, right? She's just been really, nice person. And hey, she's having sex outside of marriage. That goes against Christian values. So what the fuck's that about, huh? If you're such a hardcore Christian. See, the thing is now, it kind of breaks off into a fight. I will say this, Rebecca's acting in the fight was terrible. She's swearing a lot, but I don't really believe it. Her acting is really fucking bad. And then Jus is saying some things that he doesn't really believe, and now it just gets into this hurtful, low blow type of things. He's saying well, you guys are just fucking sellouts anyway. You guys couldn't hold on to your religion. And she's like, that's a really fucking shitty thing to say, blah, blah, which it is a shitty thing to say. He shouldn't have said that. But in the heat of the moment, some things get said, and you're supposed to be able to... You should not say these things, but sometimes some awful stuff gets said in fights, and, it's gross. No one feels good at the end of it. But it's just the way things kind of turn in at the end, right? So they start talking about each other's parents and, how his parents are judgmental and her parents are fucking assholes, all that kind of other stuff. Not good. Low blows. Ultimately ends up in a crazy fucking fight. Just means has to walk out, get some air. He's hoping that they can eventually sort out their differences. I guess he needs some time to think. He goes to the Gurdwara, and this is a nice scene because he reconciles with Neil. Neil says that, you know what, you have to start figuring out things that are good for yourself and this and that. Jus is having some conflicts about Sikhi. Who am I? Am I doing this for myself or for my parents, or am I considering not being sick for somebody else? Yeah, I need to know what the hell's good for me. And this is where the episode kind of falls apart for me, because they kind of leave it a little bit too open for interpretation, but I'll get into that. Ultimately, after the conversation with Neil, it shows Jus going back. He's having a conversation with Rebecca. Doesn't seem like it's the best conversation, but you can't really tell. And then all of a sudden, it goes into Jus walking into a Christian church. So ultimately, you're kind of left thinking like, okay, is this guy actually strongly considering leaving Sikhi for Christianity, which would make him a fucking pussy? It would not be a respectable move to run from your own religion for a girl. Not for a girl. I mean, if you want to convert with your own, understanding, and you want to kind of, maybe you find that Christianity is good for you and Sikhi's not the route that you want to go, honestly, more power to you. No reason to judge. But if you're going to do that over a girl, that's some fucking pussy-ass shit. You can't do that. You can't do that. Even a girl for a guy, you shouldn't fucking do that. Don't convert your religion just to make a relationship work. You're going to be walked all over. That's some fucking pussy-ass shit. But yeah, if you come to those conclusions on your own, by all means, Captain. Who the fuck am I to say? But one of the weird things is like, okay, so he's there, and he finds a picture of Jesus on the wall in this church, and he calls Jesus a goddamn cockblock. Which, it's... Again, I thought it was open-ended. I thought it meant like, okay, like Jesus is a cockblock because he wants me to convert just so I can continue getting laid with Rebecca. But apparently it was to show that like Jesus got in the way of their relationship and he's going to remain a Sikh. And that's how the season ends. Honestly, like that can conclude the episode. So honestly, I hated that ending. Like, I just can't stand that ending. I spoke to Chaps about it, and I asked him, then he clarified what had actually happened, and I was like, okay, so I guess he's going to stay sick. But I just felt that ending was no good. It's too open-ended. Like, there should be a little bit of a wrap-up. I know they're assuming that Season 3 is going to come, and they should absolutely get Season 3. Season 2 on a whole was so much better than Season 1, and Season 1 was great as well. Like, it started off a little slow, and then just really picked up the pace. This season threw out at so many fucking great gems. The 9/11 episode was sick. This episode was number 6 was like one of the best things I've probably seen on TV, just because of like the cultural impact of it. This one had such great moments. It's it's a bit of a darker show rather than just being a comedy. So there's a lot of growth in who Jus is as a person, as a director. I'm excited to see what happens in Season 3. Overall, everyone should be watching this show. What else can I say? Maybe we'll give it a quick little ranking. Let's see what we got for rankings. Number 1 would be New Canadian, episode 6. That's the best one. Number 2 would be Not My Uncle. That's a 9/11 episode. I like the funeral episode. That was great. Let's call that number 3. That's episode 4. Weekend at Matias's. It's number 5, I guess. Oh, yeah. New Canadian, Not My Uncle, Funeral, and Weekend at Matias. That's number 4. Weekend at Matias's. Number 5 would be Poetry Slam. Another great episode. Let's go with Yoga. That's a pretty good one. And then season finale is my least favorite, but not because the whole episode was shit. There were a lot of things that were tied up, but I just don't think Rebecca's acting as a breakup person. It's almost like she was forcing swearing. It wasn't great. And I felt it was a little rushed. I think there could have been like one episode. They could have built on the story a little bit more, like the revenge porn part, because that's a big thing, right? It kind of just goes from Chippy getting the picture and then reacting right away, whereas like I would have liked to see a little bit more of, like the impact to her life, like how that kind of, change and like the darkness that accompanies that. I think they left that a little bit open. They should have dug on that one. I think you could have had a great episode on that, and like made another like cultural or social commentary about like the dangers of how revenge porn will kind of affect your mental health and all that kind of stuff. So I think they kind of missed that one. I'm sure they only had 8 episodes, so it was maybe tough for them to build on that, but that would be my suggestion. Overall, I'm excited for season 3. I know they're going to get it. I think there's so many great concepts that are available. So let's see that. Lessons learned. Don't fucking give students a hard time. Lesson number 2, don't get fingered in the back of an Uber XL. It's gross. Lesson 3, don't send your nudes to someone that's not on Snapchat. And even like number 4, live your life. You know what I mean? Life's too fucking short. Do what the hell you want to do. Enjoy yourself. Just, thank you again for an immaculate season. It's, as I said, I'm really looking to season 3. All the people that are fucking hating on the show, there's some people who are saying like, you made it just to show up. You squared. I understand where he's coming from. He wants to hold everyone to a higher standard. At the same time, we need to protect this like it's ours, because it is. This is our show. He's making something for us. He's making it in a way that people can understand the Punjabi experience in Canada, which no one else has done. Everything else that's kind of been made has been so fucking shitty and corny. So, like, this is really a standalone thing. He's done it well. It's fantastic. And, Late Bloomer will always have my support. But that doesn't mean that when I see something that's not correct, that I'm not going to call it out either. Overall, thank you guys for listening to this part of the series. I'm greatly appreciative. And we'll be back soon with different types of content. Maybe I might even get a cameo in Late Bloomer in the next season.